Hello everybody. In this video I'm going to be talking about the user-defined functions. It's related to the M files that we were talking about last video. So the point of the user-defined functions, it's creating a function that performs a specific operation that you define by yourself. So it's a user-defined. So it's like any function, like when we talked before about the functions of let's say something simple like the polynomial operation. Let's say I have a equals 1 2 3 4 as polynomial, and I'm sorry, and b equals 5 6. For instance, we said that there is a function that's called dconv, for instance. So when we did the dconv, we said that once you type this, Matlab understands that it will divide a by b, and then you will have this output here. And we said that it produces one output if you do not specify the number of outputs you want, and in case you want more than one output, you would write it this way. Let's say the product and the remainder, and then you'll have these two products. So what we're gonna do is to create a function that you would specify its name. It will require some inputs like this, and will produce some outputs like this. Okay, so I'll keep it here so that we will compare what we have to what we're gonna do now. So to do this, we need to open a new script or an M file, and here you need to write the operations that you want to do. So before we start, we need to define first what is the equation that you're going to do, how many inputs the program or the function needs to have, and how many outputs the program or the function would produce. So it's very important to define that. And the number of inputs and the number of outputs is defined by the first line, which is called the function definition line, and it has to be written the way that I'm going to show you now. So you have to start by writing the word function, and once you type function and press space, its color turns to blue automatically. So it tells you that it knows now that you are going to create a user-defined function. The user-defined function definition line must have, after the function word, to have square brackets, which stands for the output that the program will produce. And this output, it's exactly the same way this line is written. You first put the outputs equal the program name, and then, or the function name, and then the inputs. So you type the function name. I would say let's call it area volume, and then the bracket where it includes the inputs. Okay, so let's say I want to create a program that would take the length, width, and height of a cuboid and calculates the area and the volume. So the outputs in this case are the area and the volume, and the inputs that the program will require is length, width, and height. Okay, so by defining this line, the software or Matlab understands that this is a user-defined function that has the name, area, volume, and it takes the inputs L, W, and H and produce area and volume. And here, when we type the program here, we type the program based on the values of L, W, and height that the user would enter when he uses or recalls the function. So we'll do the calculations so that the user would define the L, and the L will be used here. So we will say that the area, it's 2 multiplied by length by width plus length by height plus width by height. Okay, and then the volume, and you have to make sure that this area is exactly this area, because the program would search for what's called the area in the program inside in the file, and this would be the output that the program would produce. And the same here, you have volume here, it has to be volume here with the same spelling, with the same upper and lower case, and everything is the same. The volume is length by width by height. You do not define here any value of L, W, and H, because it will be defined by the user when he calls the function. And then you just type end, and save the file. I would save it in the folder that I usually save my stuff in, and I would save it area vol. Okay, and now I need to recall the function. So remember what we did here for the deconf when we didn't specify the number of outputs, it just produced the first output, and when we specified the number of outputs, it did the same. Exactly what we did when we used fsolve and all these equations and the least square curve fitting, and we could produce only one output or more than one output according to what we type in the command window. So in command window, I want to recall this function now, and I would say that I want to calculate or do area volume for, let's say, 2, 3, and 4. And it gives you the answer is 52, and this is the area. It didn't produce two outputs because I didn't ask for two outputs. So to ask for two outputs, you need to call it A and B, call it whatever thing, and then you have this out. If you use the same function with this inputs, you would give you the program would give you an error message telling you that the number of inputs is not enough. You have to put one more input. If you add more inputs, it would be too many input arguments. Exactly the same error message when that you get when you do this for Matlab defined function. So it's a function like the Matlab functions, but it is a user defined function. You are the person or the one who defined the function. Of course, you can add here some comments. This program calculates the area and the volume of a cuboid for anything. Okay, let's take one more example. You need to make a program that calculates the maximum, the minimum, the average, standard deviation, anything for a group of numbers. So I would first type function, and then the outputs equals the function name. I would say numbers, and then the inputs, and the inputs would be, let's say it's a matrix that's called A, and then the output would be minimum, maximum, average, sum, that's enough. And then you need to define all this stuff. First you have to tell Matlab that min is minimum of A, max is the maximum of A, average is the average is called mean. It's not like average in Excel, in A, and then the sum equals sum of A. Of course, you can call it any other name. And one thing that, let's say you want to change this minimum to be M, and then it tells you if you press shift enter, it will rename all the minimums the same way. So I press shift enter, this is M like this. I call it N, shift enter, O, shift enter, and P, shift enter. So you can, it's a new feature, and it's pretty nice feature actually. And then I saved it as numbers, and then I type in. Now the function is ready for use, so I clear everything and then start from the beginning. To make any matrix A, I would use the randy function that we used last time. So I would call it H equals randy. I would use any numbers between 0 and 100, and I want it to be a matrix that is I'd say 20 by 10. So this is H, it's 20 by 10 matrix, and then I can recall the function. I would say this is the minimum. I want to produce minimum, maximum, mean, and the sum equals numbers of H, because I have the variable is called H. And then I press enter. It says that it's incorrect, something is not right. Oh yeah, because it has to be square matrix here. I'm sorry. and here it gives you everything, but then you would be surprised that it's giving you a lot of numbers. It's doing this as the minimum is 1 by 10, so it's 1 row and 10 columns. And the reason that this is the output, because the minimum, it gives the minimum of each column, it's not the whole matrix. To get the minimum of the whole matrix, you have to get the minimum of the minimums. And the same for the maximum, you have to put the maximum of the maximums, and then the mean of the means, and then the sum of the sums, so that you would get the sum of these numbers, the mean of these numbers, the maximum of these, and the minimum of these. And then you can get this as the output. This is the minimum, the maximum, the mean, and the sum. And you can calculate anything. The program can be, of course, way more complicated than this program is, but this is just a demonstration so that we can create your user-defined function or know how to create your user-defined function. So that's all for today, and I'll see you next week, inshallah. Goodbye.